it is now time to transfer the slim wefts to the row itself. Just to get an overview of the fit and how much coverage we can get out of one open weft, I'm just going to lay this on here and walk this over. And it's telling me that I don't get that full coverage, so I am going to have to bricklay those wefts. And we're going to do that by folding and doing a combination of folds and open wefts. When we're customizing the fit and mapping those wefts, we want to make sure that it's as seamless as possible and not expose folds if we don't have to. Now, around the face, we will have that fold, and the ends of those wefts will be away from that hairline, going towards the center back on either side, much like you see the anchor row traveling towards that back. So what I'm going to do is take this and start to map my wefts. The beautiful thing about slim weft is it doesn't have the tethers that hand tied does. So you can fold these wefts and align the edges of the slim weft. You want to make sure that they're aligned as you lay those wefts because you'll be marking them with a marking clip. And it's much easier to gather them in sewing if they're better aligned to begin with. Folding it directly in half. You don't always have to fold it in half. You can do quarter folds, tri-folds, whatever you need in order to create the look. Now, if we were to start to map our wefts here and work away from the face, meaning the next weft would be bricklayed here, what you're showing is that stagger in those wefts. And that's not as clean. It's not as pretty. So you want to really create a very seamless look. And how you can do that when you are folding and bricklaying those wefts is by starting past that second bead and then bricklaying the next weft on top so it covers this fold and it's more seamless. As you are folding these wefts, you also want to make sure that you're cascading. You never want your wefts to look exposed, meaning cascading from the exterior, because it's more visible. You want it to be as seamless as possible. In order to cascade, you simply roll those so the cascading is happening from the interior versus the exterior. You're holding the weft in place. The difference between mapping slim weft and hand-tied wefts is the slim weft is a little bit slippery. So you'll use probably twice as many marking clips just to keep it nice and stable as you would with hand-tied. So I'm just marking the beginning and ends of each weft, going down, making sure it's nice and secure to that anchor row and stabilizing in place as I'm reaching for my next marking clip. Just want to make sure it's nice and stable. So I have this side mapped. Everything's nice and secure. Remember, you don't want them touching their hair, especially as they see all this beautiful hair starting to be exposed. I'm going to fold this weft again. So now I'm going to lay the next weft. I folded it in half. I've made sure that my ends are nice and aligned. I've cascaded those wefts from the interior. And now I want to make sure that I have enough coverage to cover that front bead, but also not too much coverage where I'm right at that part line or right at that beginning of my section of my stability anchor. So I'm going to go about halfway. And I want to make sure that I can get at least 4 back-to-back anchor stitches in. You want to make sure you have enough coverage here because as you start to sew, sometimes these wefts can cinch up. And if you cinch up too much, you get that shrink and then you can expose that bead. We never want to expose that bead or have too much of the stability anchor showing. I want to get this as close to the end of that weft as possible because I know on either side of the marking clip, I'll do that anchor stitch just to make sure it's nice and secure. Continuing the same thing on the other side. Again, we don't want to start by laying the wefts here. We want to bring those back because we have one more weft to complete this row. So remember to always cascade from the interior, not the exterior. So I'm going to rotate and just cascade those wefts by pinching and rolling those fingers. I can feel it start to cascade, and you can see it start to peek through on the interior bottom. Now that we have completed mapping the wefts, what we can see is how seamless this is because the folds are on the interior, making this one seamless looking row. So everything's nice and stable. I've secured with my marking clips. Remember, it's best to use as many marking clips as possible to keep it in place.